What's happening, guys? Adam Drake here. We all know that tires are a huge part of your program, and it's also a big expense. So I'm going to go over the proper steps to make sure that your tires stay secured to the wheel. There's a few really key and important things in the whole process of preparing and gluing your tires. So I'm going to go over, show you the process that I use to make sure that you have success gluing your own tires. So let's start by talking about what all you're going to need. Obviously, you're going to need a full set of tires, a full set of wheels. So we'll go ahead and set some of these tires aside and go over some of the other products. So first thing, you're going to want to make sure that you have a brand new clean microfiber towel or brand new blue paper towels. I prefer to use the blue paper towels because I know every time when I'm getting ready to clean and mount a set of tires, if I pull it off the roll, it's brand new, it's clean, there's no chance of any oil or dust being on the paper towel. The microfiber towels do work very well. The problem is I use these towels also when building and bleeding my shocks. So sometimes you may make a mistake, you may get confused, grab a towel that was used when bleeding your shocks, you go to clean your tire, it has some of that excess oil. So for me, I just feel way more comfortable using the blue shop towels. I think, again, you're trying to eliminate the possibility of making any mistakes. Next thing is Simple Green. We also offer degreaser through the drakeracing.com, but the main thing is you want to make sure that it's full strength Simple Green. You can't use anything that's been diluted with water or any other type of cleaners. For the JConcepts tires, this is what I found to be by far the best for cleaning the tires. I know some other drivers that run other tires may use different cleaners and maybe that works best for other tires, but for the JConcepts tires, you're definitely going to want to use full strength Simple Green. As far as glue goes, there's a bunch of different glues on the market that are really good. Some prefer thin glue, some prefer a medium glue. JConcepts makes both thin and medium glue. I've had really good luck with the ProTech medium glue, also the Flashpoint thin glue. But the glue is important, but how you store the glue is probably even more important. You want to make sure that the glue is stored in a refrigerated area if you're going to keep your glue for a long time. If you leave the glue in your pit bag or your OGO bag and that sits in the back of your car on a really hot day, the glue can spoil really fast. So even if you clean the tire properly and do all these steps, but your glue has spoiled or gone bad, the tires are going to come unglued. So if you can, make sure to store the glue in a refrigerator and try to keep it as fresh as possible for as long as possible. We have some tire bands here. JConcepts makes tire bands. These are tire bands from ProTech. I just haven't gotten any tire bands from JConcepts yet, but both work really good. The JConcepts ones are a little bit softer and stretchier. The ProTech ones are a little bit stiffer and kind of fit a little bit tighter, but again, it's just your preference. The bands you use isn't going to have a big effect on how well the tires are glued or how well they stay secured. Next will be a old-fashioned leather punch. You can get these at Harbor Freight really cheap. There's also some companies out there within the RC industry that sell them. This is just a set from Harbor Freight. So the first thing I like to do is I'll prepare my bottle of glue. And the ProTech glue comes with a little applicator tip. They also sell an optional applicator tip that is a little bit stiffer, which I like the optional tip just because it allows you to get down into the gluing bead and it have more support, where this kind of flexes and falls over. So but if I do use the standard more flexible applicator tip, I'll just go ahead and cut it a little bit shorter just so it's a bit more rigid. But from what I've found, the stock glue tip kind of gets clogged a little bit easier. So I use the stiffer one. I just go ahead, apply it to the cap, or the cap for the bottle. And then I just take shrink wrap. I believe Ty Tessman originally showed me this tip, but I just go ahead, put the shrink wrap on there. You'll heat it up with a lighter. When it's done, you'll see it shrinks. This bottle's been used a bunch, so you can see some excess glue and stuff, but it's still free. Glue and air's able to pass through there. So I'll go ahead, shrink wrap this, and then we will move on to punching and prepping the tires to get to the gluing process. Okay, so we got the shrink wrap shrinked to secure the glue tip to the bottle. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean the area and the surface where I'm going to be gluing the tires. Just like I mentioned with the microfiber towels, sometimes you don't realize you end up having a little bit of oil or dust, and that can play havoc on the quality of the glue job. So if you go ahead and you just make sure everything is cleaned and degreased before starting, it's going to give you a better chance of making sure that your tires stay glued good and you're able to get the full life out of the tires. From there, I'll just go ahead and separate tire and insert, because once I do this, I'm going to go ahead and punch the tires with my leather punch. So we'll go ahead and get and prep both sets of these. Both sets are green reflexes, so it's not a big deal if I mix up the tires. What I like to do, the JConcepts inner carcass or core has 3 ribs. So I don't want to punch through those ribs, because those ribs are there to give a little bit of extra structure and support. So what I'm going to do is just punch a hole to one side of the rib, flip the tire 180 degrees, and then I'm going to punch a hole on the other side of that rib. Now, some guys will tell you you got to have 4 holes or 6 holes. Typically, I normally just do 2 holes. If it's a bumpy track, sometimes I'll do an additional 2 holes. But for the most part, I do 2 holes. The holes are really just to vent the tire to make sure it doesn't suck in and capture any air inside the tire and make it, you know, a bit more bouncy in rough conditions. So I use 2 holes 180 degrees apart from one another, just off center line. And then one thing to look out for is just to make sure the piece that you're punching out of the tire doesn't end up falling or landing inside of the tire, so that you have a little bit of a hard spot. You just want to make sure. A lot of times it goes into the hole punch like it's supposed to, but sometimes it'll fall and actually go into the tire. So now that I have that done, I'm going to do these tires 2 different ways. I'm going to do one set just the standard traditional way, and one set with the insert glued to the wheel. So for the set that is going to be standard, I'm going to go ahead and put the insert into the tire, and you'll want to make sure to kind of rotate the tire, make sure that that insert is fully seated into the tire. And then you'll just repeat that process for the remaining 3 tires to have this set complete, and then you can set that aside. Now the next set of tires, we are going to glue the insert to the wheel. And what that's going to do is it's going to make it to where that insert can't walk or move around on the wheel. It's going to give it a little bit more of a firm or supported feel in terms of side bite or side load on the car. But you are going to lose a little bit of forward bite when you glue the insert to the wheel. So just depends on the track and the conditions. Usually I run the tires just with the insert standard, not glued to the wheel, but just for sake of this tire gluing video, I wanted to be a bit more in-depth and show you a couple options. So what I'll do is put the insert on, kind of work it around, make sure that the insert is centered onto the wheel, because again, once you glue it, if it's offset, it's going to stay offset. So you want to make sure you spend a little bit of extra time to make sure that the insert is positioned properly onto the wheel. So from there, just so, again, I know that the surface is totally clean and that I don't accidentally get any glue on my pit board, I'm going to go ahead and now glue the insert to the wheel. And this takes very, very little glue. I've seen some guys where they'll actually take glue and they'll drop it on each and every one of these little ribs in the foam. I don't do that. I just take the glue and you'll just lightly start to squeeze the glue. And as soon as you see it start to come out, let me grab this other bottle. That bottle's almost empty. So as soon as you see it just start to come out, I'll just work it back and forth really quick. And you'll want to work from the outside towards the inside of the wheel to just kind of evenly spread a little bit of glue to help secure the insert into place. So I'll do that, let this sit with it, the face of the wheel up. That way any excess glue can run down towards the inside. And then once I get these other 3 tires or wheels with the insert glued to them finished, I'll work my way back around to the first one and I'll start from the inside of the wheel and glue to where it's fully securing the insert all the way across. Okay, so now I have half of that whole set done. So now I'll go to the back side, do the exact same thing. I'll start at the little lip or rib on the wheel and then work my way towards the center of the rim, evenly spreading the glue, just really, really thin them out. If you put too much glue, the glue will actually run and you'll make a really big mess. So you just want just a little bit of glue, just enough to hold the insert in place. And then just continue this on until you get all 4 inserts secured to the wheel. Okay, so we're gonna push these to the side, let them sit so that the glue can fully cure, and make sure that the insert is fully secured to the wheel. So now we're going to move on to the standard set of tires that we've already punched, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how I clean and prep the tire and put them on the wheel to get ready to glue. So now we're going to just take our second set of wheels. Again, this is going to be for the set of tires that is just glued the traditional way. Inserts are standard, not glued to the wheel. And as far as the wheels go, as long as the bag that the wheels come in hasn't been open, there's no chance of dust getting in there, I don't clean the wheel or do any prep to the wheel itself. If there is any question that possibly the wheel got some dust or dirt on it, or any chance of it being exposed if the bag was open, you can take a nail file and you can just scuff the whole mounting bead's surface. You can do it with a nail file, you can do it with a Dremel. Some guys prefer to do this just as a additional precaution. But if you use glue that's been stored properly, a clean blue paper towel, full strength simple green, you shouldn't need to do the extra step of scuffing or prepping the wheel itself. Now, you'll see with some tires, especially if the tires have been sitting for a long time, they'll start to get kind of like a brownish color. That happens with basically any manufacturer of tires. JConcepts recently changed their mold release, from what I understand, to where their tires have a little bit more of like a white or silver look, and the tires stay much, much cleaner. So with some of the older tires, as you go to scrub the tire, you'll see more brown come off on the paper towel. With the newer kind of production run of tires, you won't see as much buildup or stuff come off the tire onto the paper towel. But I like to just fold the paper towel, apply the simple green, and then you're basically just going to scrub or wash the mounting bead of the tire, where the tire is going to come in contact with the wheel and where the glue is going to secure the rubber to the plastic wheel. You don't need a ton of simple green, but you do need enough to make sure you wash that surface good. Any of this kind of extra simple green that's kind of sudsing or bubbling up, I'll just kind of wipe back and then go ahead and do the same thing to the inside mounting bead of the tire. And something that's really important is sometimes you're at the races and you can get distracted. You start cleaning your tires and then someone needs you to pit for them or tune an engine or go Marshall. You stop what you're doing in the middle of it. You come back. If you're not sure which tires have already been cleaned or prepped, just clean them again. It's just worth it in the long run. Again, tires are a big investment. You want to make sure you're able to get the full life out of them, and you're only going to be able to do that if they stay glued to the wheel. Also, you want to make sure that when you prep the tire, when you clean it like I'm doing now, you wait long enough for the simple green to dry, but you want to go ahead and glue the tires that you've prepared pretty much right away. So within 10 or 15 minutes, that's fine, but you don't want to prep your tires. You know, say practice is over, you're going to prep your tires for qualifying. You clean them, you get everything ready, and you go, I'll glue them in the morning. That can be okay, it can work, but the best option is to glue them within 10 or 15 minutes of prepping them. So that way the surface you know is clean, nothing has been able to kind of seep out of the rubber and again make that gluing surface not as clean as it could be. So once you prep the tires, you should glue the tires right away to make sure that it has the best bond. So we'll do the last mounting bead of tire number 4. And usually by the time I get done with the 4th tire, the 1st tire is dry enough to start putting on the wheel. If it's not, again, just kind of look, make sure that it's not shiny or that you don't see any moisture on the surface. If it is, sometimes you can just move to the next tire, but you'll just want to check them, make sure that it's not still wet. If it's still wet, sometimes the glue will dry really quick and not fully cure. So you let them sit long enough for them to dry, but not too long to where additional dirt and oil can get on the tires. Another thing, before mounting your tires, it's always good to wash your hands. Again, we build our shocks, diffs, we have oil and grease on our hands. You don't want to then get any of that oil or grease on the tires. So I will now take and mount all 4 of the tires onto the wheel. I go ahead and kind of pull the tire past or all the way to one side, the front side of the wheel. Make sure that that tire is mounted as clean as possible, and then I'll work my way around to the back side and make sure that, again, the outer surface of the wheel is lined up with that outer surface or sidewall of the tire. If you start gluing with the tires not kind of fully seated onto the wheel, it's just going to make a nightmare. You're not going to be able to get the full mounting bead of the tire secured to the wheel. I don't like to use tire gluing jigs. I know some people swear by them. They think it's, you know, much easier and cleaner. And if you have a good experience with it or good luck with it, there's nothing wrong with using a tire jig. Just for me, I'm traveling all the time. A tire jig's just something else to kind of bring in my bag or potentially forget. So I just kind of do it the old-fashioned way. But if a tire jig makes it easier for you, that's fine. You just got to make sure with a tire jig that it pulls the tire back far enough to where you can get the glue deep enough into the mounting bead to where you're wanting to make sure that you're getting glue to the surface of the entire mounting bead and also the entire mounting bead of the wheel, because the more of that surface you can get, the better the bond's going to be. So now we'll get to gluing. I'll go ahead and pull 4 glue bands, have them ready. Some guys will secure a glue band onto the tire before they start gluing. That way the bead can't really shift and move. I don't like doing it that way because I feel like you're not able to get the glue as far in and get the entire mounting bead. So I just try to be really careful. I don't really like lift the tire. I just kind of like push it back. And then because with this Protect glue tip, it's stiff enough, I can kind of push it down in there and make sure that I get that entire mounting bead with glue. Now, it's not necessarily the more glue you get in there, the better. It's just making sure that you have a nice even coat. From there, I'll let it sit just a couple seconds just to make sure that that glue kind of settles and sits down in. You can actually take and push the tire a little bit. You'll see the glue start to kind of bulge out a little bit, which is fine, because again, you want to make sure that you have a solid, consistent amount of glue all the way around. And you can check it really quick if there's a little area where maybe the glue didn't quite come up all the way. You can just go back and touch that up. And again, you want to do all this while everything is clean and fresh, not once you find out that it starts to kind of peel or tear back. Now, as far as cleaning the glue or the excess glue off, you'll want to use the dry part of your paper towel. Do not use the part where you put the simple green on, because the towel will actually stick to it. And I just like to just press down and just really quick kind of run the paper towel around, and that'll kind of smooth out any of the excess glue. Set that tire aside, and then continue on with tire number 2. So we'll go a little bit quicker now, since I don't really need to explain the same thing that I've already done. Glue it really quick, make sure that there's plenty of glue down there. This one I have a little bit of additional excess glue. Push the tire to make sure that that glue kind of evenly is dispersed. Take a paper towel, wipe off any of the excess, and move on to tire number 3. With this one, I'll show you a little bit different method for cleaning off the excess glue. And you can use whatever works best for you, whatever you think again, just works for you and is the cleanest. Do the same thing, and then you'll want to just take, and you're gonna just push the tire down flat, but you're gonna have to pull it up really quick. You can do that a couple times, and you'll see each time less and less glue ends up on the paper towel. If you push this down and hold it for too long, it's gonna end up staying glued to the paper towel. So this method, you'll want to be really careful, but you can see it leaves a little bit of additional excess glue, but it's not smearing it around, so the wheel actually looks a little bit cleaner. But it's whatever method you feel the most comfortable with and works best for you. So we'll do that same method one more time, just so you can kind of see what I do here. Put the band on, make sure that everything's sitting nice. And then again, super clean and takes up any of the excess glue. And just like with cleaning the tires, by the time I'm finished gluing the 4th tire, the 1st tire should be dry enough to where I can go and glue the inside. So what I'm going to do, remove the band, check and make sure that the bead is nice and clean to the wheel, and I'm just going to work my way back around, making sure that you overlap with the glue. Again, don't need a ton, but you want to make sure that there's no breaks in the glue bond to where the tires can start to peel back or come unglued. Wipe off the excess glue. I'll check it real quick just to make sure there's no little spots that I might have missed. On the back side, sometimes you can actually see it's much darker where the bond is really good, and it'll be really thin, or the color of the wheel where you maybe missed a spot or didn't get quite enough glue down in there. So I'm going to go ahead, finish these tires, and then we will move on to basically the same process, but other than how you mount the tire, how you wrap it over the glued insert, and we'll go ahead and move on to that next. Okay, so we have all 4 of the standard tires glued. Sometimes you'll see in the pits, I'll have my tires like right after I glue them with a tire band basically pulled to the center. And I'll do this sometimes if I'm looking to get just a little bit more forward bite. What I'll do is I'll let the tires sit like this for 10 or 15 minutes. I'll just shift this glue band to the center. Make sure it's kind of secured. And what that's going to do is just kind of smash down the insert a little bit in the center, give it a little bit flatter profile. I don't always do that, but again, if I'm just kind of fine-tuning my tires for the condition or the feel that I'm looking for, I'll just shift that band to the center. So I'm going to do that while I go ahead and show you how I flip the tires and mount them with the inserts that are glued to the wheel. So I'm going to start taking brand new paper towel, folding it, taking my degreaser, putting a fairly heavy coat onto paper towel, and then I'm going to go ahead and clean the mounting beads on both sides of set number 2. Just want to make sure you scrub all the way around, flip the tire over, do the same thing on the other side. And again, you can see not much coming off. Sometimes you'll get tires that are a little bit dirtier and you'll see more of the mold release kind of coming off onto the paper towel, but these tires are pretty clean. They must be fairly fresh batch. But the important part to mounting your tires, making sure that they hold up and stay glued is the prep work. It's not fun doing all the little extra steps and precautions, but it'll pay off in the long run. Making sure that clean everything good, you have fresh glue, make sure that the wheels don't have any dust or oil on them, and that makes the process a lot easier, and also again just holds up better, more consistent. Okay, so all 4 are done. As far as the prep work, I'm gonna go ahead, let these sit just for a minute. The first tire, go ahead and inspect it. It looks pretty good. That's not, there's no moisture from the degreaser. So what I'm going to do is just flip the tire inside out, and then I'm going to line these 3 ribs with the tire with the 3 grooves in the insert. And then I'll just push that down, use my thumb to kind of pinch and hold it in place, and I'll just pull the tire to flip it right side out. Then from there, just like you would, you want to make sure that you just kind of adjust and kind of work the tire around until it looks nice with the outer face of the wheel. It's a little bit more difficult with the inserts that are glued to the wheel, because normally as you push on the sidewall of the tire, it can push and shift that insert with it. So you can always get one side really nice, glue it, and then shift it back. But with the insert that's glued to the wheel, you don't have the luxury of being able to push the insert to one side. So with these, you're going to want to spend just a little bit more time making sure that the tire is lined up and the orientation is nice and clean. Because otherwise, when you go to mount it, if it starts with the surfaces not being kind of lined up or mating one another, you're going to have a bunch of areas where the sidewall is sticking out a bit more than it should. And what that's also going to do is, if this isn't fully seated onto the wheel and there's a little bit of excess tire sticking out, if you catch a rock or you land a jump, it can expose a bit more of the tire to basically catch that rock and possibly tear or rip the tire off the wheel, or kind of break the bead of the tire. So again, just you spend a little bit more time now with prep and paying attention to these things, and it will pay off in the long run. So, got tire number 3 situated and ready to go. We'll move on to the final tire, and then we'll go ahead. The gluing process will be exactly the same as the first set of tires we did. The only difference is going to be, again, paying a little bit more attention to making sure when you pull the bead back that it then sets back in place, because it is a little bit more difficult with the insert glued to the wheel. So kind of one last check, make sure that that's nice and clean. Grab 4 more tire bands, and then we'll glue this outside. Again, making sure that you're kind of overlapping the glue, because you want to make sure that there's no break in that glue bond. Because the tire, it's much easier to tear off the wheel if there's a break. If it's glued all the way around, that bond is going to be much tighter and better chance of the tires staying glued over the life of the tire. So again, I'm going to spend a little extra time, check the bead, make sure it's pushed all the way down nicely, and then start to glue it. Wipe off any excess. And you want to, again, you want to be pretty quick when you go to wipe off this excess glue, otherwise the paper towel can get stuck to it. It's not really a problem if the paper towel gets stuck to it, it just doesn't look very nice. You can take an X-Acto knife and just kind of scrape or almost shave the paper towel off if needed. But yeah, you're wanting to make sure that any of the excess glue is wiped off. Sometimes the excess glue can actually cause it to kind of be brittle and crack. So that's where you want to make sure you use enough glue, but you don't need to kind of overdo it. And then kind of the final step, once you have both sides glued and the excess glue wiped off, before whether you store your tires with a tire stick or in a bag, it's always really, really nice and important to mark the compound. And then also, like in this case, I'm gluing 2 sets of the same tires. So what I would do is put like G1 for green set 1, G2 on the other set. And then for me, what I do to identify the set where it's glued to the wheel is whatever that letter and number is. So G1, I would then underline it. And that basically tells me that it's glued to the wheel. If you want to go in and write glued to the wheel or whatever you want to do to make sure you keep track for yourself, because the last thing you want to do is go to the track, run a set of tires, and then not know or remember what the compound was or if it was glued to the wheel or not. Again, for me, I don't glue very many sets to the wheel, so it's not a huge deal, but it is nice to just make sure you keep your tires organized and you don't confuse yourself, you know, if there's a set of tires that worked really good and you're happy with it. So I'm just going to go ahead, finish gluing the back side of these remaining 3 tires, but hopefully this video is helpful. Hopefully it will allow you to have a better experience when gluing your tires and being able to get the full life out of your tires without having one of the glue beads come unglued. Appreciate you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to share it with a friend or a fellow racer. You can always subscribe or click to get notifications for when we post a new video. I appreciate it, and we'll see you guys in the next one.